And that is one of the more interesting and kind of quirky features on this knife. In fact, when I received this knife from CRKT, my buddy Ben over there, I asked him right away, I was like, so what's the deal with the pocket clip? Was it bent out at some point, or is this how it comes from the factory? This is how it comes from the factory. Hey guys, welcome back and thanks for tuning in to my review of the CRKT G.S.D knife, or the Get Stuff Done by Liang Ma knife. You can insert, by the way, any other word you like in place of stuff, any other S word if you choose, but there it is. And I think the basic concept behind this knife is it's a nice hard working knife. It's basic as far as design is concerned. It's just designed to get the work done. Get that cutting done and get you back to your day, I guess you could say. And we're going to talk all about the features on this knife, some of the ways that it shines, some of the ways that I think it's a little quirky, and all that stuff throughout the course of this review. So do try to stick around for the entire thing if you can. But first, let's get into some of the cut tests. Now, somehow I lost the footage of this knife slicing through cardboard, but I do have the footage of it slicing through paper. It did okay. I felt like it did a fine enough job. I did notice as I was doing some of that slicing, I felt like the edge came a little obtuse from the factory. That's not to say it wasn't sharp. It was good and sharp, and I was able to reestablish that edge after I'd done some use with it. But it's a little more obtuse than I kind of like to have my knives be. That said, if you want a nice hard working knife, which this is intended to be, perhaps a nice obtuse edge is going to be better for you. But perhaps, you know, it could be finer, and that's definitely something that you could adjust as the knife owner if you want to put a finer, more of a steep edge on that. In order to get that really fine slicing done. Yeah, definitely you could do that if you chose to. Moving on to the cardboard, as I said before, I don't have the footage of that, but it did a nice job slicing through all that. I don't remember having any kind of issue hanging up in any way. It's got a really nice, slick, and shiny blade on it, as you can see. Very polished, which adds to the lubricity of it and, you know, helps to reduce friction as it's doing a lot of that type of cutting. As we got to the wood, the 2x4 that I like to carve into with most of these EDC knives, I did feel like that obtuse angle on that edge was starting to slow it down a bit. I felt like perhaps I needed to dig a little, you know, kind of a more inward angle in order to kind of get the slicing done that I needed to do with that wood, because it just wasn't catching, it wasn't slicing, it wasn't pulling those fibers and that you know, that wood away like I'd want it to, and like most other knives will do. So was it the obtuse edge? I'm not so sure, but you know, it could be that it was getting a little dull by that point. Can't really say, but I don't feel like it was really shining as it was doing that work on the 2x4. That said, it did okay. And how was it in hand in that kind of work? You know, it was actually more comfortable than I anticipated it to be. It's a fairly thin knife, as you can see there. The actual width on it, I think the handle width is something like 0.39 inches, which is not very much. It's a pretty thin knife. So you would think that that would kind of dig right into the web of your hand and cause it to be fairly uncomfortable and bearing down on some of those cuts. But it actually wasn't too bad. Some of these rounded facets in the handle and in the frame, it is basically a frame lock, so handle slash frame, were nice and comfortable. It's very finished and polished around all the edges. It's stone washed, as you can see there, but still sort of a very finished and rounded shape to that handle, so that's really good. So the performance, I'd say, is definitely acceptable. If you wanted to spend some time and work on that edge and make it a little bit finer, more steep, it would definitely perform better for some of those tasks. And that's how it performs. So let's move on to some of the design features and try to decide if this is going to be the knife for you. Of course, we'll also show you some great comparable knives, some other really great knives from CRKT, and all that kind of stuff. One of the coolest features on this knife is the IKBS pivot system. So you've basically got ball bearings going around that screw right there, making it so that the deployment is incredibly smooth, and very fast every time. It also makes it so that you've got a very tight lockup side to side. It does not want to move. Front to back is also perfectly tight for those that are curious about that. The frame lock on it looks really good. There's a good close look at it. Yep, that's about where I'd like it to be, and performed great. So as far as ergonomics, well, we talked about that in the cutting test. So we'll talk about some of the other features that sort of add to that add to the ergonomics of this knife. We've got some jimping down here on the handle towards the front, which kind of helps to lock some of your pinky in place as you're doing some of those cuts. You've got some on the top as well, and if you're going to bear down on that, you'll definitely feel that in your thumb. We'll take a close look at some of that jimping and see how coarse and how sharp it is. It's good stuff. Looks really, really good. You've also got a little bit right here on the inside of that frame lock, and that is really well done. I like that a lot, how they've kind of cut it into the inside of the frame lock rather than just carving away at the outside. So that's really cool. Helps to give you a nice grip on that without destroying the aesthetics of that. So that's really nice. I like it. Of course, we can talk about the pocket clip, and we'll need to do that. And that is one of the more interesting and kind of quirky features on this knife. In fact, when I received this knife from CRKT, my buddy Ben over there, I asked him right away, I was like, so what's the deal with the pocket clip? Was it bent out at some point, or is this how it comes from the factory? This is how it comes from the factory. So what we have here is kind of a milled out steel pocket clip. I think it's 420 J2 steel is all of the frame and probably pocket clip as well. Might be incorrect on that, but I think that's correct. And so what we have is, as I said before, it's not just a sheet metal pocket clip as we see on so many other knives. Here's the Hootenanny from CRKT. That's just basically bent sheet metal or spring steel or something like that, but it's been formed to create the pocket clip that you want there. So it's very, very flat steel. Whereas this is, as you can see, kind of milled out from a block of steel. So it doesn't flex in the same way. It does flex, but not in the same way and not as much. And because of that, I think, they designed it so that it would give actually a little space right there for slipping into your pocket. So that, because of that, once again, the rigidity of that type of steel and the design of it, you won't have a hard time getting it into and clipping it onto your pocket. They wanted to make it easy and make it work for you while also being really aesthetically pleasing. That is reversible. You can put it on this side as well. So any complaints about the pocket clip? Again, I think it's kind of quirky, but it works. I really have no complaints. Riding in pocket, it sits just fine. I'd never had it fall out, and all the carrying and the EDC carrying of this knife that I did, which was several weeks, never had it fall out, never had any situation where I felt like, well, I better watch that knife during this activity because it could fall out. Nope, never was an issue. So there you go. Moving on, we've got a nice lanyard hole. If you want to add some paracord to that, you can do that. There's a nice backspacer here that's perfectly smooth. Looks like it's some sort of FRN or something like that. Full flow through design, not full flow through, but it is somewhat a partial flow through design. Once you deploy that, you can see that it's not going to be too difficult to get that cleaned out from lint or whatever else you might have going on in there. So that's really cool. Design-wise, I like it. It looks really, really cool. It's just aesthetically, it's a beautiful knife. And so that's one of the reasons I was most attracted to it when I did see this one at the CRKT booth at SHOT Show 2015. We're in 2015 still. It's 2016 is the one that's coming up. So I was impressed with it, and I still am impressed with it. One of the things that I will call a downside is the weight, especially considering the size. The overall length is just 7.69 inches, blade length 3.31. It's got a very long blade for its size, and you can see that the blade to handle ratio is nearly 1-to-1. So that's pretty interesting. But again, the weight is 5.5 ounces. 5.5 ounces for what you get. It's kind of a hefty knife in that regard. Now, that's not going to be a deterrent for everybody. A lot of you guys dig hefty knives. You have no issue with carrying 5.5 a 5.5 ounce knife, if I can enunciate, and especially for something that's this good looking. You've got no issue with it. AUS steel, which is also good, is the blade steel. That's going to do very well for you. So yeah, as far as the design and function of it, it's a very good knife. And if you like the quirks, or if you don't mind the quirks that I am picking out, if those are actually attractive features to you, you're going to love this knife. You're going to love it for the, what, $65, $64 price. So there it is. Let's compare this to a handful of other great knives. First, let's go with some from CRKT. Some other ball-bearing pivot-having knives. How about this one right here? I think this is the first Ken Onion IKBS knife, the CRKT Ripple. Still a beautiful knife, super thin, really nice. I see this one on woot.com every now and then for a really, really great deal. What was it when I bought it? I think it was in the $90 range. It's probably come down since then. I just love this knife. It's so aesthetically nice. So there's that one. That does have that IKBS on it. It's really fast and really cool looking. Look at those two knives. Very close in size. The Hootenanny I showed you earlier. There's another one from Ken Onion and CRKT. Just beautiful. Just really great ergonomic and functional. I love that knife. How about, here's another Ken Onion from CRKT. Yeah, look at that one. The Foresight. Big and beefy. Totally different, uses in mind for that knife, but also bearing the IKBS system. And here's a brand new one. Just came out and just received it from CRKT. You will be seeing a little preview right there. You will be seeing a review on it very soon. What's this one called? The Outrage. Outrage, also from Ken Onion and also with IKBS. Really cool looking design, right? Blade shape, kind of funky, but I'm digging it actually. I see a lot of good utility from that. And just a fun looking knife. If you just kind of dig, cool design and just, this is like, Ken just said, I'm going to pull out all the stops on this one. And it's like, let's just go and make the, something that I think is going to look really, really cool. Put it out there for people to enjoy. That's what I like about that knife so far. Haven't carried it much, again, just received it, so I'm going to be testing and carrying that one quite a bit in the near future, and you're going to be seeing a review on the Ken Onion CRKT Outrage pretty soon. But there's a handful of CRKT IKBS knives to look at. What else is there on the market that would be interesting in comparing against the G.S.D. from CRKT? Probably a lot of stuff, actually. Some other very good EDC knives. The Kershaw, Ken Onion designed 1660 Leak. There it is in all black. How's that stack up for size? That one's a bit smaller, definitely lighter weight, but also a frame lock. So it's got some things in common. Here's another frame lock that is much smaller, but has that one particular feature in mind. There's the D2 having Maxpedition. Oh crap! What's the name of this knife? Anyway, Maxpedition folder. I'll have it right there on the screen so you can read it. I can't keep all these knife names in my head, guys. I just can't do it. Spyderco. Hold on. Sage 1. Also a beloved EDC knife. How's that stack up? There it is. More expensive by a good bit. This one too. Here's one that's also more expensive by a considerable amount, but I love it. This one's fairly new, and I'm digging the crap out of this guy right here, man. Check this out. You having fun with this knife show, guys? The Southern Grind Spider Monkey. Look at that. Look at those sculpted carbon fiber scales on that. Oh my gosh. Just dig this knife. I really, really do. S35VN, USA made. What's the name of the country singer? I'll have his name here on the screen that owns this knife company. Oh gosh, dig that sucker right there. I really, really dig that one. One more. This is from Bird. The Bird Raven 2. And this sucker is cool. I think you can still pick this one up. I saw it recently on Blade HQ, and the price is great. It's CTS BD1 steel on that. Oh gosh. I'm not doing a review on this one yet, but that's just a fantastic knife as well. Lighter weight than that one, and very good steel. Comparable at least, maybe better in some ways. Definitely gives this guy a run for its money, so something to consider. Lots and lots of knives to consider, really. I won't bore you with all of them. There's definitely a ton of other great knives out there. But I would say that the G.S.D from CRKT gives them all a run for its money, especially in the aesthetics category. It's just great looking, and for that reason alone, you might consider picking it up. I'm a late Boy Scout. Thanks very much for watching this review. We'll see you on the next one.
There's the logo, by the way. Hootenanny Cannon. What a cool name, right? By the way, this does have the IKBS bearing system in the pivot, which is fantastic, incredibly smooth, and so fast, and just flies out and requires